Dark bleatings, everyone. Firstly, if you hear anything in the background, my husband is having boys' night right now, so they're watching UFC and having pillow fights in their underwear and I don't know, suggestively eating ice creams and things, like whatever it is the boys do when they all get together. Also, my very needy cat Loki is in here. Now, he is a cat that does not appreciate a closed door. Sometimes he absolutely freaks out and starts wailing, but if I open the door, he'll keep creaking it. So right now he's Loki. So it's my weekly wrap up and I haven't watched anything, and I know I vowed to watch more stuff and I had quite a good watching week last week, but I've watched nothing. But when I tell you how many books I've read this week or finished that I'd started the week before, you won't be surprised. So yes, I have finished / started and read the full book of 7 books this week, which is unheard of. I don't know if I've ever finished and read new books that in those numbers in a week before. But yeah, great reading week. So I've had quite a good selection of things. I'm going to talk about my horror stuff first, what I've read on Kindle first of all. Some of these are review requests, and then I'm going to show you what I was reading in paperback and hardback, and a couple of those are not horror, but I thought, well, I'm going to tell you about them anyway. So first up, I read a book called Architecture by Flewitt, which is a horror novel, of course. Here is the synopsis, and I am going to give you the synopsis for these books because I have a habit of thinking that I've summarised the general information and then accidentally giving mad spoilers if I try and do my own little synopses for things. So here's the official one. The homeless are being taken from the streets of the city. When she wakes in the morning to find herself painted red, it sends Gabrielle Travanti on a journey to discover herself. Probably said her name wrong. There are ceremonies and rites which occur at various times in the world's history, and they have the power to change the course of everything we accept to be true. Times when the esoteric meets the rational in a struggle for supremacy and ultimate dominion of the world. These ceremonies are bloody affairs filled with debauchery. The architecture is only one. We are the design. We are the flesh. We are sanctified. Dum dum dum! So the first thing I should tell you about this book is that the imagery that it conjured and the sort of the central plot of where everything is heading really just conjured up these like amazing Clive Barker-esque sort of images for me. My favourite thing about the book was the kind of dark that it is. There is something so delicious about this type of horror, this really visceral, bloody, and I'm not talking like the whole story, like it's actually not full of really sort of like graphic or gratuitous fully fleshed out violence and gore, although there is violence in it and there is gore, but it's not like a blood and guts horror novel, if that makes sense. It's just that I really can't go into it that much without spoilers, which I'm not going to give in a weekly wrap up, but I really enjoyed that. So we've got our main character who keeps waking up covered in blood and, you know, with no memory of what she's been doing. So she thinks she's sort of sleepwalking. Loki's trying to escape. If you could hear him clawing at the door, I'm very sorry. Yeah, she's having this sort of fight within herself, but she doesn't even know if she's fighting herself, if there's something else going on there, or, you know, she doesn't really know what she's been doing, so she's like super scared. And then we have her sister and a boyfriend that she's distancing herself from because she's afraid that she's a danger to them. And then we're in the viewpoints of a very interesting character also that I really can't elaborate on without spoiling it. But yeah, just really reminded me of sort of Clive Barker style storytelling, and I really enjoyed it. So there'll be a full review on the website whenever I write it and schedule it, but yeah, that was a good start. Next I read The second book I read was an anthology edited by Lydia Prime from Silent House Press, and it's called Dark Murmurs, a compendium of curiosities containing stories by 15 authors. And the thing that I really loved about this anthology is that there was a concerted effort made to make sure that the cast of writers was like varied, so people from different backgrounds, ethnicities, sexual orientations, genders and things like that. And I really appreciated that because you know, I don't think that, well, no, maybe horror does have an issue with this, but I just find in book spaces in general, like, genres are sort of dominated by one type of demographic, shall we say, usually, and horror is kind of known for being a sort of predominantly white male straight space. So there are a lot of people now working to like make sure we're diversifying writers' voices and things like that, but you know, we've got a long way to go. So what I really enjoyed about this anthology is that there was a really great mix of authors, and that made the storytelling very varied and the types of stories told very varied as well. There were no two stories alike in this anthology, and something that really hit me, a few of the stories had me quite tearful because of the sort of viewpoints they were written from. Let me just tell you the names of the authors, and I'm so sorry, I am definitely going to mispronounce probably half of these, and if you're one of the authors whose name I butcher, I can't apologize enough. I'm just awful with this. So we have stories by Mocha Pennington, Elizabeth Massey, Richard Chismar, Brandon Scott, Philip Fracassi, Lydia Prime, Patrick R. McDonough, Catherine McCarthy, Josh Darling, Rowan Hill, Joshua Marcella, Jill Girardi, Jay Snow, Ellie Douglas, and Gwendolyn Kisty. Is it Kisty? Is it Keist? Oh god, I'm cringing so much at myself. With a lovely foreword by Michelle Renee Lane. So the favourite story in the whole anthology to me, and the one that's like really stuck with me, was called Farewell to Flesh by Mocha Pennington, whose name I'm sure I'm mispronouncing. And the first note that I made about this is, Christ, this story has me tearful. It's told from the perspective of a trans woman, and it just, I like to think that I'm like a friend to all and an ally wherever I can be, but there are certain experiences that I just, as much as I try to sympathize, I will never be able to like fully understand, because it's not the road that I've traveled. So, you know, people have got different paths and journeys and struggles in life, and this really opened my eyes to an element of the trans experience that I'm sure a lot of people would agree that they'd share this kind of experience. It really opened my eyes to like an element of being a trans person that I hadn't considered before, especially a trans woman, and it just really had me crying, because I can't understand it exactly, but I do know how it feels to be very insecure in my own femininity. I've got a lot of friends who are like what I consider like the epitome of like these drop dead gorgeous like bombshell kind of women with like these amazing figures, like the kind of like bodies that people get surgery to have, you know, like the most beautiful faces, and just, yeah, like I spent a lot of time in groups of women like that where I very much like feel like the ugly duckling. So yeah, this story, like I related to it in some regards, and then it just opened my eyes to some other things, and then it was just like a really great horror story also, as it reminded me of something that might be on like one of those like cool anthology shows, like not Tales from the Crypt, that's a bit too campy for something like this, but somewhere between like American Horror Story and Black Mirror, maybe something like that. But I really enjoyed the story, and I haven't stopped thinking about it. It's made me want to like actually do something helpful. I don't know what, but yeah, I really enjoyed it, and overall it was like a really strong anthology. I don't think, I'm just flicking through my notes, I don't think that there was a story in it that I didn't really enjoy, and I've had a bit of anthology fatigue recently, as I've been reading, like I read a lot of anthologies last year. This one, like, yeah, really sort of like brought back my love of reading anthologies, and it's given me some authors that I hadn't heard of that I'll now definitely look out for their work. So yeah, really enjoyed that one. Next, I read Through the Surface by Juliet Rose that I started last week, so I finished that off this week, and oh boy, holy cult Batman. So this one is let me get up the official synopsis. Two tragedies a few months apart and multiple states away from each other leaves 4 people dead with one fighting for their life. As a result, this uproots the lives of teenagers Ledger Elliot and Iris Brubaker, who know nothing of each other. 15 years later, their paths cross when Iris moves to the small main island Ledger has lived on his whole life. After her grandmother's death, Iris inherited a lodge on the island and intends to reopen it as a hotel. Unbeknownst to Ledger and Iris, their lives are about to collide and their dark past will come to haunt them with the help of the history and possession of the lodge. Through an unexplainable draw, they are cast together and find themselves fighting for their lives and the protection of island residents against unseen foes. Demonic forces which followed them from their past are determined to take over the lodge and reopen a portal to hell. Through this battle, Ledger and Iris discover they were sent to stop one another, yet through their connection unleash a power they'd never known existed. So I really enjoyed the characters in this story. I really liked Ledger as one of our sort of like dual protagonists. Oh, I guess he really is the protagonist because we're usually in his mindset. But the opener with Iris is, oh, it's so dark. It's just so dark. I was super excited as I was like getting into the midway point of this novel when I suddenly realised like what kind of story we were in, because I really couldn't tell for a while, and not in a bad way, just in a like there were little, you know, questions popping up and everything, but I couldn't really tell which like direction we were being steered in for a bit. But then when I did realise where we were going, I was so excited because it's like one of my favourite types of stories. So that was a real fun time. I didn't put the book down much. So yeah, read it in very few sittings. So if you're someone who likes super dark real world stuff mixed with super dark potentially supernatural stuff, you'll probably enjoy this. If you're someone who enjoys sort of like a love story kind of narrative intertwined with all of this stuff, you might like this also. And if you're someone who's family orientated as well, I think there were bits of this that were very, I don't know, I just really liked Ledger's family, and I liked how Iris felt with Ledger's family, so that was really nice. So a nice mix of just, you know, absolutely heinous and heartwarming good old family fun. And then the last thing on Kindle that I read was As the Night Devours Us by Villimey, whose name I probably also mispronounced. I'm really sorry. I know I sound like I don't care when I mispronounce these names, but the tone is coming from a place of really sincere embarrassment and not, you know, not caring. As the Night Devours Us is a whole bunch of quite interesting stories, like the Dark Murmurs anthology. The writing was coming from a perspective that I'm not very familiar with, that I haven't encountered a lot. I think, let me double check before I just go talking absolute crap. Yes, so the author is from Iceland, which is a place that I know absolutely nothing about. I just picture it as being cold because it's called Iceland. So yeah, I'm super like ignorant about the region, I realise. Like my geography is terrible anyway. I don't know anything about Wales where I live, let alone countries elsewhere. So I just have very little knowledge about places. For some reason, my brain just doesn't store things like that. It's just full of ghosts and zombies and, you know, crap that's completely useless, instead of, you know, geographical locations and things that are useful to know. But it was really nice to read a book by an author that's from somewhere like totally different to me, that's not from the UK or the States, where obviously we have our differences, but we're sort of like similar in our thinking, I think, about a lot of things. Well, at least that's how it comes across to me when I'm reading novels and things. So yeah, it was really cool. There was like a really cool mix of sort of like stories that used folklore and traditional mythology from several places, and then just some other like just really cool horror stories. But yeah, coming from a perspective of someone that's from somewhere different, it was just really interesting because I really enjoyed these sort of more folklore-y kind of tales that use traditional regional myths that I'm completely unfamiliar with. I felt the same way as when I discovered what the Japanese idea of a ghost is, and how it's you know, similar in like maybe one way to like a Western idea of a ghost, but Japanese ghost lore is like really different. And I remember discovering that and being like, oh my god, people around the world have got completely different ideas about ghosts and spirits, which makes for great horror, especially if it's something like completely alien to you. And I felt like that about the folklore and stuff used in this book. So it was like, it made me really want to learn more about Iceland and just like the region and all of like the really cool, you know, old wives' tales and things like that that might be passed down. So I thought that the collection was really strong. I'm not sure that I have like a favourite in it per se, because they were all quite different stories and I never knew where anything was gonna go. So it was like a really nice, really nice breath of fresh air, that collection, and I really enjoyed it. Say really any more times, Kale? Just, yeah, carry on. Just pretend. But yeah, we could at least pretend that I've got more words in my vocabulary, couldn't we? But all right, so let's get on to my physical books. So in sort of horror non-fiction, I read The Weird Tales Boys by Stephen Jones, and this is published by PS Publishing, in case you couldn't already tell from the absolutely magnificent cover art and just the beautiful presentation of the book. Oh man, I love PS Publishing books so much. Yeah, this is super fun if you're interested in sort of background information about British horror fiction. I think mostly this is. So there was a magazine back in the day called Weird Tales. See some cover art here, and this is a collection of essay style chapters about the writers and contributors to that magazine. So the foreword was written by Ramsey Campbell. As I said, Stephen Jones is the author of this. We've got sort of information about H.P. Lovecraft, Robert E. Howard, Clark Ashton Smith, and the unique magazine, it says. So had it all signed. I was really excited. I bought this at FantasyCon last year, had it signed by the people that were involved there. So it's a collection of lovely little sort of like background info essays on the magazine and the people that worked on it. Also covers from the magazine covers, and then just some like other art, just bits and pieces of illustrations and things like that. So it was just like a lovely read, like really charming, gives you like a good sense of like the history around like the culture of this magazine. And I never actually read this magazine, it was a bit before my time, I think, but I really enjoyed reading about the construction of it and the people involved and all of that. So yeah, really different. I've been really enjoying non-fiction recently, and I've tried to say to myself I'm going to read a lot more non-fiction this year, because I really enjoy trivia basically. So anything that gives me sort of behind the scenes info I tend to really enjoy. Now we're on to my non-horror. So this is an autobiographical type book from Tim Lebbon called Run, Walk, Crawl, Getting Fit in My 40s. And this is Tim's account of getting fit in his 40s. So in the beginning of the book, he talks about how he hit 40, and I think he said he was like 15 stone or something, and just like something in his head like sort of snapped, and he decided like, I need to get fit now. And he did, and he discovered like a real genuine love of sort of like outdoor pursuits, like running, like outdoor trails, cycling, and swimming, like open water swimming, and like lakes and things like that. I say open water swimming as if I know what I'm talking about. Is that just like all open bodies of water, or does that just apply to the sea? In any case, swimming outdoors. And so if you're a Tim Lebbon fan, he writes a lot of horror fiction, which is like how I've discovered this book, because I've been making my way through his like back catalogue of horror fiction, and it's going to take me forever. He's quite a prolific author. But yeah, I just picked this up because I'm currently on my own sort of fitness journey, and I look up to Tim as an author and a person, really. I have some like quite weird things in common with him, and I really enjoy his work, and I just find him really inspirational. And I thought, you know, if there's someone that can help me get off my ass and make sure I'm going to the gym and working towards my fitness goals, like maybe this book will do it, which it did. It was really, really funny. There are several things in it that I never thought that I would be reading about, such as, you know, the art of lubing up one's gooch before going on a bike ride, and things of that nature. Also, I really enjoy his persistent love of cake, because whenever you read someone's account of getting fit and healthy normally, it involves the dreaded words, cut out cake. I'm sure I've read that 1,000 times. And he does not encourage you to do that, which I appreciate, because I've just eaten half a box of French fancies and I'm never going to give up cake. I'm telling you, I'm never going to. Yeah, so I would recommend this book to people who are, you know, maybe embarking on a fitness journey, or maybe you're on one and you're struggling with it a little bit. It was just really, really fun, like light reading. He talks about the many races and things he's participated in, like he's done a lot of triathlons, Ironmans, things like that. And yeah, it was just like, it's just such like a nice, fun, sort of charming, funny read. Inspirational, really inspirational book, and just absolute joy. I really, really enjoyed it. Hit my 5k on the treadmill as well for the first time in 2 years this week. So, and the last thing, which is like gonna seem like an out of left field type of book, I read Lauren Graham's Talking as Fast as I Can. Lauren Graham plays Lorelai Gilmore in Gilmore Girls, and I am a major Gilmore Girls fan. It's my comfort show, and basically it's permanently just on repeat in my house. I always have it on in the background when I'm working, or if I'm doing anything really, and I just want voices, like, so I'm not on my own when my husband's at work and stuff. And I love that show, and I've got like thousands of criticisms of Rory and Lorelai, and especially Rory, but it hasn't detracted from my absolute love of it. And I would want to live in Stars Hollow, and I want to go to the town meetings, and I want to do weird festivals like that picnic basket thing. And I just, yeah, I don't know anything about Lauren Graham whatsoever outside of like the character she plays on that show. And I heard from other Gilmore Girls fans in I'm in a few Gilmore Girls fan groups on Facebook, and Gilmore Girls Addicts, people were talking about this book in there, so I decided to pick it up, and found that Lauren Graham is, you know, very sweet and charming, and I really enjoyed the book. And it's basically just about her time on Gilmore Girls and getting into this business we call show in the first place, and sort of, yeah, other projects she did in between working on the main show and then on the revival. So yes, just, yeah, it was a very nice light read, and I really enjoyed it. And that is all of my reading for this week. I think that's plenty of reading. I'm currently reading, still haven't finished this. I haven't read any more of this in the last week, and it's not because I don't love it, because I'm really enjoying it, but I got really I don't know why I decided to pick up like 5 books at the same time, but I got really distracted, and I've saved this for when I next have a lovely long bath with a bath bomb, and I think I'll finish it there. I'm also this week starting the Devil's Device by Jeffery, which I've been meaning to read for months, and I feel really, really guilty because he submitted the ebook to me probably before, well, it was definitely before Christmas, several months before Christmas, I think. He submitted it for review, and I told him that I'd get to it immediately, but I couldn't. Yeah, I've stopped saying that to people now. Felt like I was letting him down, but I know that I'm going to love this because it's a book by Jeffery, and so far I have read 5 Jeffery books, I think, and I have absolutely loved every single one, rated them all 5 stars, so I know that I'm going to love this. So I just thought I may as well just go ahead and buy the paperback right now to add to my shelf, because whenever I love a book that I read that's come in as a review request, I always buy the physical copy after I've reviewed it. So yeah, I thought I'd just cut to the chase and buy it now, so I'm going to be reading this week. I am also halfway through Fearforge Anthology by Horrorsmith Publishing, and it's edited by the amazing Lindsay Smith, who I don't think that Lindsay knows of me, but I definitely know of her and her work, so really enjoying that so far. So that's a multi-author anthology, but I'll save the details for my next wrap-up because I expect I'll be talking about that in next week's video. Oh, gosh, I'm out of breath now. Yeah, so that's everything I've read this week. If you have any questions about anything, any details maybe that you'd like answered about any of these books that I haven't talked about, please ask me in the comments. I'm going to release Loki now because he's looking at me like I'm a piece of crap because I've shut him in here. Maybe I'll go get him a little dreamies. I don't have a sign-off, but I'll see you on Tuesday with some sort of bookish video that I've definitely not left last minute to plan. Bleed! Oh, please subscribe to my channel, bleed!